Hey everyone. So, as promised from yesterday, I was going to talk a little bit about some of the stuff that we're doing, or some of the things I do with these little paint guys. I switched actually from a plexiglass palette that I use in my plein air pochade boxes to this disposable paper palette inside this kind of like a Tupperware, if you will, box. Mainly because anything I want to mix up, I want to use. So we'll talk about that in a little bit. But I haven't been painting for a while, as you know, because I moved from Cincinnati to Asheville, North Carolina, and haven't had time to paint. So some of the things that I like to do before I just hop right back into painting is to kind of mix up paints so that my my muscle memory starts to come back, and I can start to expand my palette more than just relying on what I mixed up way back when. So we're gonna do that. I wanted to take you through. Basically, I've got some notes here, so if I get lost, I know what it is I wanted to talk about. So I wanted to talk a little bit about equipment that I have in the studio. Again, this is a palette saver, if you will. You put your paints on here, you put a lid on it, which is right over here. Hold on one second. And you seal it. And if you're a lot cleaner than I am when you paint and you don't have any paint on it, or you have an extra freezer around somewhere, you can actually put it in plastic, like a garbage bag too, just to keep paint away from any food that you have in the refrigerator or freezer, because the last thing that you want to do is get paint on food that you're going to eat. So it just, buckles down. It saves it. Even if you don't put it in the refrigerator and you use really, really good paints, which I'll get to in a minute, you basically don't have to worry about them drying out. They stay a little bit longer. Michael Harding paints, I think in a paint saver like this, I have gone 3 and 4 weeks without it being in a freezer, in a pretty moderate place, air conditioned in the summer and heated in the winter. I've gone at least 4 or 5 weeks with the paints not drying out, and no need to use liquid. So I'll talk a little bit more about Michael's paints in a little bit. But anyway, this is a little paint saver that I use. It's made by Masterson. If you go out and Google, you'll be able to find it. The Middletown Art Center also sells them. So if you're in Ohio, Cincinnati, Dayton area, you can always drive to the art center there and order them, but they're also available online. So cute little, neat little thing. My camera is mounted on an easel, so I can't see you guys because the camera's facing me. But if you are listening and watching and joining us, I just want to say hi to you all again. And I will be posting this not only on Facebook, but when I get done, I'll be downloading it and putting it on my YouTube channel, and also out on my Patreon site, which we'll get into later. This lesson, again, can be used by anybody. This is one that I'm going to put out to the public. Additional ones that I do later, one follow-up on color mixing and color therapy and things like that. Color theory. It is therapy, though, to mix, I have to say. Color theory, things like that, will all be off of my Patreon page. And I'm going to actually be changing the tiers on that, I think, soon. But there's a $3 tier, a $5 tier, and a $10 tier, and a $25 tier. And each of them have different things associated with them, freebies, if you will. So if you want to see things like this in the future, where I'm actually going through a lesson, you'll need to become a patron, but this one's free, so enjoy it. And basically I want to start with, where did I get these, which I said yesterday in the live session. I basically went to Ace. Some of these are from Lowe's, some of these are from paint stores. I've got tons of these things. I mean, I have been doing this for years, and it really does help with your mixing. And I mean, these are all the ones. These are the ones that I just picked up. These guys I've had for a while. And I've done this in class where I've walked around and had people mix to these. So basically, you can get them in strips that are even longer than this. I think like Lowe's has, like 5 of them. These about like this size. So basically what I do when I get home is I just take a scissors And I don't want any white on these samples. You can even cut off, you know, the name or whatever. So I do that. Like here's one with 3. This is a really neat color. This they call it Graceful Swan. I call it gray with a little bit of pink in it. So, you know, I stopped getting to the point at some point where I stopped actually trying to name the color I'm making. Mainly because I find when I do stuff like that, actually that'll be a nice one to try and mix too, these two. You know, when I try to do stuff like that, it really kind of backfires on me because my mind goes into naming the color and what I can choose it up with. So I just don't talk and think about colors that way anymore. I want to get some really interesting greens. As well, and there'll be a one where I did this in class, and it was so helpful to everybody. And that'll be a lesson down the road where I mix up just really, really gray colors and show you how they change depending on what's sitting next to them. So let's get these 2 greens. This will be nice. So what I'm doing right now is just basically choosing some colors that I think would be fun to mix up, kind of stretch my palette a little bit and my mixing ability, and we'll get into mixing here in a second. So you can tell, like, I want some very different colors. And I'm kind of hanging in the green side because I have some great colors here that I want to use and show you some mixing stuff, you know, mixing, how I mix, how I don't get frustrated mixing, because sometimes folks, you know, you get to the point where you don't want to mix colors anymore. So, okay, I'll just kind of leave these guys all spread out over here and put these guys over here for right now. I'm going to walk away for 1 second. I'll be right back. I want to grab a board. So anytime I do like a mixing session, I always want to grab one of these artist canvas panels that aren't very expensive to have around. This is an 8x10 one, and the reason why I do that is I want to save colors that I mixed up. And I do this because when I'm painting in the studio, this one I actually did when I was outside doing plein air painting and looking at all the greens, and I would actually mix up some green, walk over and hold it to what I was looking at to see how close I came. And then I would save that color, which tells me I've mixed this color before. I should know how to do it. So basically, I keep it to show that I could mix something beyond what my muscle memory is providing for me. So I started with a really easy palette. And of course, I didn't grab any white, so let me go grab that. So I was taught with a very limited palette. Okay, these were all the ones that I think I had out yesterday, so I should be good. Yeah, okay. So one of the things when you're setting up a palette, you naturally want to set your palette up the same so that when you are mixing things up, that you always know exactly where that color is. I started out with a very limited palette. Kevin McPherson paints with this palette still with some additional colors. Most artists have these colors on their board, on their palette. Some of them change different things, so that's a whole nother conversation. So I'm going to open this, hopefully, or maybe I'll go get another one. This isn't stack lead, is it? No, it's not. Okay. So this is Michael Harding's. Okay, I'll be right back. So, live TV, you gotta love it. when you run into a situation where tubes won't open, like this one, this is not Michael's fault, this is my fault. And you could just get a little needle nose plier or a bigger plier and just wrench it off with the needle nose plier on here. And don't have a lot of strength in my hands, so I'm going to use a bigger tube. And see how easy that comes off. So if you take care of the tubes, it's a good thing. And I need one more thing. I need some more paper towels. So hold on. We're getting there. Okay, so paper towels here. Everything's good. So I'm going to put the colors down this way. So here's some white. I'm not going to use a lot of white. But basically anything that I have here, you know, I can use. And I'm going to put, for right now, Michael Harding's French Ultramarine. Well, actually, Michael Harding's Ultramarine. It's number 113, Series 1. Lovely. And the white was his number 102, Series 1. It's Titanium White 2. I'm going to use Michael's Alizarin Crimson, number 302, Series 3. There we go. Should have put one of my pliers here. These guys have traveled from Cincinnati to Ohio, have been in a box for a while. So they haven't been used, but they're, you know, still really, really good. So, and then I'm going to put down Michael's Cadmium Yellow, number 402, it looks like, Series 4, down. So this is a very basic palette. And I know probably getting asked, why do you like Michael Harding's paints? I like Michael's paints. I started out painting and I was using Winsor Newton because you know, this is back in like the 1990s or so when I first started painting. And basically the instructor I had, which I absolutely loved Larry Dowd. You know, he was smart. He said, you know, don't spend a lot of money on things. Make sure that you really enjoy doing this. And really didn't have a lot of comments to make about what paint you use. The only thing he did was limit what paints I could use. I was not allowed to use black, for example. And he didn't ask for like a totally limited palette. But I totally understand why Kevin, when he started mentoring me, suggested a limited palette and paints with a limited palette. It helps you control value a little bit more, and you actually have to start mixing colors. I mean, every color is, you know, based on these primaries. So, you know, there's been this journey of learning colors. There's also been this journey of understanding paints. And like I said, I started with Winsor Newton, went to a limited palette, got really frustrated mixing colors, was really thinking, you know, I'm just not a good paint mixer. I don't understand color theory. I don't understand color mixing, blah, blah, blah. Well, I ran into Michael Harding at Weekend with the Masters. I did a show with Michael on the Art Chats podcast, and that was the first show that Michael and I did together. And Michael started talking about paint properties, and it became very, very interesting at that point. And when I was out at Weekend with the Masters, I was telling him, I said, just don't seem to have this ability to mix paints. And he asked me what paint I was using, and I told him I was using Winsor Newton at that time. And he said, I think you know how to mix paints. Stop over and play with my paints. Well, I did that. And I tried, like every time I would go and mix Winsor Newton, I'd end up making mud very, very easily. And I tried like crazy to mix mud with Michael's paints. And any color that I happened to mix was a gorgeous color. And so when Michael started talking about what was in his paints and how he has, you know, no fillers, and he uses basically oil and a lot more pigment. And so as I started to move away from the Winsor Newton brand and realized that that equipment was holding me back, that paint I was using was holding me back in mixing colors, It wasn't my ability. It was the ability of me not being able to mix the colors using those paints. When I got into using Michael's paints, my color mixing took leaps and bounds over where I had been, and my paintings became more vibrant, and it's basically, you know, these paints are all you know, pigment, some oil, no fillers, no stabilizers. No, I mean, there's probably something in there. I don't know Michael's total formula card for these, but you know, they're the as close to oil and pigment that you can get without a bunch of the other stuff that's in there. Extenders, that's the word I was looking for, extenders, not stabilizers. But you know, maybe a little bit of some kind of wax maybe in here to keep them suspended. I don't know. But like Karen and Michael tell me, when you're storing these, don't store them flat, store them on their lids so that everything, you know, your oils and pigments, and I kind of just kind of massage this a little bit as well. So I like Michael paints because Michael's paints make vibrant paintings for me. I like a lot of color, and I like vibrant color. I like contrast. But to get there, you also have to understand value, which is another thing we'll talk about later on these little live podcasts and videotapes that we're doing. So you don't want to store them flat. You want to kind of store them, you know, up. I'm going to lay them flat for right now because I know as soon as I go like this, I'll knock them all down. So Michael's paints, basic palette, and these little, what did I do with them? There they are. And these little guys to help you mix colors. Okay, so that's where we are right now. So let's get into this. I'm going to start with greens because if you're a landscape painter, you have a lot of greens that you have to deal with. And that's good. It's a good range. So I can name all the greens that are laying on here by their name that the paint manufacturers use, but basically you have a range of greens that go from the blue side to the yellow side of green on the color wheel. Some of them are a little grayer, a little lighter in value. If you want to see the value and take the color out of it, I suggest you have available to you a red square, which is where I disappeared to go get. And of course, it's not in its place. It never is. There it is, just sitting out. So there's two different ones that you can use. This is a red square from EasyL, EASYL, and that you can get from artistessentials.com. And if I look, I don't know if you guys will be able to see this real well, but the red square takes out color so that you can see value. So this guy's relatively dark in value. This guy's very close to that in value. Don't know if you can see it. There's two different values there. This guy's very light in value. These guys are, you know, very, very different range. So I'm not sure you can really see that, but these guys are real handy. So that's one way of the red square. If you're a plein air painter, you don't like doing math or anything, this one is, I can't remember where I got this one from. Hopefully they have their Picture Perfect Products. So this has the red square on this side. This has, you know, how you divide your canvas up. It's got a value scale over here. It's got some math for converting, which is very handy, so you don't have to do that math in your head. So you can take this out and look through here for value, look through here for how you're going to put that composition on your canvas. Really nice little handy viewfinder, if you will. So plein air painting, that's good. It's good when you're doing this mixing and you haven't mixed for a while. It's good to have those on hand too, because you want to make sure that you're getting close to the value. So here are the greens we're going to mess with. Okay, so I'm going to start with these two dark greens, this one first, and then go to this one. So blue and yellow make green. A lot of times too, I'm only going to make a small amount But what I also find is that with beginners, sometimes with intermediate people, when I'm teaching artists, when I'm teaching them, they tend to make really, really small piles and then try to stretch the paint. Don't do that. With these paint savers, you can make up, and Michael Harding paints, you can make up a lot of paint and keep it in your freezer, and it's going to work just fine. And it'll be there for you. So make it up so that you don't have to keep mixing them. On the other hand, trying to always mix the same color up will also give you a lot of muscle memory, but it might be a little frustrating. So here's Michael's Ultramarine. And then we're you want clean colors, so you want to have some paper towels on hand so that you can wipe that off before you go into your yellow. And see, I still got blue on there. So I'm going to mix this up. Trying to mix to this color. So I want to see at this point, am I anywhere near the value? I could do this by squinting. I could do it like this. So yeah, I'm in the value range that I want to be in. If I look color-wise before I decide which one I want to do, I'm a little bit warm, a little bit gray. It needs to be a little bit warmer, a little gray. So the question I'm asking myself is, you know, I'm not at that color yet. I'm greener. I'm more vibrant. Value is about the same. So this is warmer. I see this is warmer than this. Maybe a touch in value, but your eyes, that temperature can deceive you. So again, when I'm mixing, I'm trying to grab everything, flip it over, spread it out, etc. Okay, so I want to gray this a little bit, but I don't want to use white, because if I use white, I'm going to be too high in value. If I use yeah, and like I said, I'm close to value. So, how you know, you ask yourself the question, now how am I going to gray this down and not use white? Use the complement. The complement of green is red. That's why we all love Christmas. And we may not want a lot of this, but the other things that you have to think about is this ultramarine blue is a translucent blue. Alizarin is translucent. This cadmium yellow is a little more opaque. So translucents will not mix. Like, you could use a lot of translucent in other. You have to be careful, because whenever I say it with Michael, we end up slamming the paints in class. But you're going to need a little bit more than you think you'll need with a translucent paint to kind of gray it down and things like that. So I could put like cadmium red on here, and it would be a totally different amount that I would need to gray this. So I always start with small amounts and go to larger amounts, because I can always add more, but I can't take anything out unless I start over again. So I have a little bit of alizarin crimson on there, and you can tell really didn't bring that down in a gray color at all, and that's because I had that little bit amount, and it's translucent. So I'm going to go with a little bit more. Okay. So now it's not quite as warm. I'm going to take a little bit of that and just slam it over there so that you can see it. And when I put it up against this one, still feels a little warm, and it also feels a little bit darker. Still a little bit darker. So I'm going to go back to the yellow, put the yellow in, and again, I'm putting a warm temperature paint into this warm temperature color right now. And you can see that that yellow slightly brought it up in value, but not a lot. So I'm going to go up just a little bit more. Now it's getting very warm. See the difference between those two colors. Just so you know, the light that I'm using here is an OT light. It's basically a daylight, natural daylight light. So I have all the lights off in my studio. I have the window behind me that has the shades drawn so that the sun can't get in, and I'm using the hot light to mix these colors. So again, not close to that yet. And I'm going to add some more red. A little bit browner now, right? So let's go back to blue. And at some point you may sit there and say, well, with the blues that I have out here, I may not get to that color. So this is one of the things where a limited palette may be just a touch too limited. Because in my mind, I'm already saying, I could probably get to that color better if I use one of the cobalt blues and some cadmium yellow, and we'll go into that a little bit. Maybe using a Naples yellow. I'm going to use a touch of white. So the question I'm constantly asking myself is this more green? Is it more on the green-red side? Is it, with a brownish in it? Is this, do I need more yellow? Do I need more red? Do I need more blue? Okay. Every time that I hold this up to this, I keep thinking, oh, I need more yellow. And again, I'm kind of doing this quickly, and I didn't clean my palette knife off like I told you guys to do. I'm going to go to white. Yellow. Okay. Let's set this aside. To expand your palette and to work with different things, sometimes it's necessary, or even something that you may want to do is part of the reason why I wanted to do this way was I wanted to show you. So that's Michael Harding's Cobalt Teal Blue shade, number 516, Series 5. I'm going to put down another translucent paint. This is his Caribbean Sea, and I don't have the series numbers on that, but it's out on his website, I'm sure. And I'm going to put down just the regular Cobalt Teal, and I'm going to put down a Viridian. So a lot of times when you're mixing, you get back into the habit of naturally starting to expand your palette while you're thinking and mixing. It just starts to get those juices flowing. I'm going to use a little bit of Viridian. I'm going to come back and put in a touch of that yellow with the Viridian. Use the two cobalts, touch of the yellow, add to the Viridian. I think I picked probably the hardest green that you could mix up. And sometimes you just go, well, I'm not going to get there using that, so. And now I'm just really just kind of playing as I go through this. Nice purple. So the yellow took the purple out. This is Caribbean blue. To me that's too blue, so I'm going to take a little bit of yellow. Sneak up on it if I can. Getting closer. Touch more yellow. Touch of white. Getting real close now. A lot of times these paint strips are a lot duller than what you will get with an oil paint. So you may not get exactly there, but you'll get pretty darn close. I used to do this in class, and the person that was the closest to the slip that I gave them, and I always picked something that would go good in their painting so that they didn't feel like they were wasting paint. This still seems to be more yellow than I want to believe it is. I put some ultramarine blue. I think that's going to be probably as close as we're going to get it. Mixing a subset of the color just as kind of, you know, a way to make me stretch, and for you to see the difference in what I'm playing with. Greens is typically always a hard one to mix up as well, and there's so many of them. So that's getting pretty darn close. I'm going to mix a couple different blues in there to see if I can offset it. Touch. Go back to the cobalt, throw that in. Add some more yellow. See where we are. Too much yellow. So you continue, you guys are getting the idea, but you continue to go back and forth until you're very close. When you think you're very close, you kind of put a spot on there, of color on there, so that you can get it as same type of surface. And then if you've got the color really close, it should basically disappear when you look at it. It should just meld right into that spot. So I'm very, very close to that color. Okay, so then we got this guy, and I'm going to just add a bunch of white to it. This particular one, notice I still have this here, which is the basic color. And I'm adding white to it. I'm going to continue to add a little bit of white. I'm going to throw in just a touch of that yellow. Hold on 1 second, guys. Hopefully I didn't get any blue on my carpet. So, mix this guy up. Okay. Same thing. Okay, a little dark, right? Okay, so we just wipe that off. And take another subset down here. Throw in some more white. Again, just asking cooler, warmer, darker, lighter as I'm mixing this in and as I compare it to the piece over here. And there we go. So there's that one. Might still be just a little bit too dark. That one's probably a little closer. And again, when you're done, you can just wipe the paint off of it with the paper towel. You can also get glue all over it and throw it away. So, getting this stuff all over my hands too, which is okay. You just wash it off with soap. Just don't ingest it. Okay. So just, you know, as I was mixing this stuff up for these two greens, you know, look at the variety of greens that I went through, all of which, you know, can be used in any painting. Again, to save these, you know, just kind of make a palette knife mark to save the color. And it just gives me a little bit of a reference of greens that I can use when I'm painting. Okay, some of this guy. You know, side by side, it really starts to show you the big difference in the greens that we've mixed up. Okay, so set that aside, clear this off. Now, I'm, as I said before, I'm going to save these, but one of the things I want to do is clear my palette off a little bit so that I can put some more colors out, maybe grab another one that's not green. So you can just put them in little piles up at the top of your palette. Save them for a later painting. Okay. Put this over here for now. One of the other things that you can do to grab another green. Let's take a white, take some of your white to grab off as much paint on your palette as you can. Some folks will tell you, you know, you should go get a whole new palette, paper palette, and that's fine, you can. I tend to like messy palettes. When Carol and I had Carol in here in Middletown for a workshop, I had this really messy palette, all these different colors on it and everything, and first thing she said to me is, you know, how can you even mix anything? I tend to mix better when everything is messy. I mix when on a super clean, and I think, you know, sometimes that's why. Look at this really pretty green gray that's coming out here by doing this. Okay, so some people will paint on a gray palette instead of a white palette, just because they see color better with the gray palette, and that's perfectly fine. There's nothing wrong with that. I tend to do it with just more colors. So again, this exercise, doing this, is a reason why I do it, is just to get my eye in. I mean, I was totally cold. This is the first colors that I've mixed up since coming back. I love that green. I love that green. That one I'm going to use in some paintings. You know, I haven't mixed paint in probably 2 months. But hi, little girl. I don't know if you guys heard the meow, but little girl just came up because she hears me talking and she's wondering what I'm doing. She's down by my feet now. Hi, little girl. What? Yeah. Okay, I'm mixing colors. Can I mix colors? Okay. You're a cute girl. The other thing you can do just to kind of get the rest of the color up is just kind of wipe it. But if I had just did this, I wouldn't have got this really gorgeous green up there that I'm going to use on the commission painting. You'll see. It's another reason why I'm kind of choosing different colors to play with, is to get my eye set to the painting that I'm going to be doing here in a short while. What you want, sweetie? Huh? You want to say hi to everybody? I got stuff on my hands. I can't pick you up. No. I can't pick you up. Yeah, I know, hon. Why? There you go. You going to attack me? You going to attack my feet? You can lay there. You can lay by my feet, okay? Okay. Okay. If I scream, it's because she's going to bite me. You silly cat. Silly, silly kitties. Okay, I'm going to put out a little more yellow. Yes, I am. A little more yellow. Yeah. Where's your mousey? Go get your mousey. And the flop down. I'm so surprised. Okay, so, I'm trying to think, let's see. Another color that I might want to use. Let's play with some reds. So I'm going to put out a cadmium red light, number 503, series 5, from Michael Harding. And if you notice, when I was mixing all these colors up and putting all this, I never really got anywhere near mud. These were all colors that I will use. I don't know if you can see it, but that's in there. All colors that I will use in a painting. So I'll put that up into red. Let's do some of the, this is quinacridone gold, number 411, series 4. I'm going to put that out too. Love that color. And I have a Venetian red over there, but I'm not going to get it out. I'm going to put out this permanent orange as well. I'll put him right here. Okay, so reds on roofs. In light, they're typically you know, our brains say they're red, but you know, you can do little tricks, like you can put alizarin crimson on one side, but that's a very translucent paint, so you know, maybe you would use that as glazing later or whatever. And it's somewhat, you know, if I put alizarin crimson out next to she's biting my feet. What are you doing, silly? If I put that next to this very opaque cadmium red light, you can see the difference in the value and in the warmth of it. So again, opaque, translucent. Put my orange next to it, and you start getting into color relationships. So, you know, this permanent orange starts with permanent orange, which I don't think I gave you the series. Number 222, series 2, permanent orange. You know, this is, you know, looks like dark red for the shadow side, you know, kind of the intermediate color, and then, you know, red on the light side. So, kind of interesting to see that. Now, if you mix those with yellow, I'll put the alizarin crimson there. I'm going to put the permanent red there. And the orange there. Okay, so if I take my cadmium yellow and mix it in with my alizarin crimson, I get one shade of orange, right? Not bad. Not bad. Okay, if I put that next to it, look how brown that is. So we get in a little bit into color relationships while we're mixing this stuff up too. So, nice brown color. Red brown, barn red brown, I think. Not really a shade color, but you probably could, depending on what you do with this next red, the cadmium red light. Put in some cadmium yellow. Remember, that's permanent orange. Still not to orange, right? I'm still on the red side. Sorry, she just keeps meowing every time I talk. I don't know if you guys can hear her or not. She's so funny. I can put a little more cadmium red light in there. Throw in a little more cadmium yellow. Pretty nice, excuse me a second. No, girl. No. No. We don't do that. Go get it. Sorry, she was clawing my carpet, so. Still not permanent orange. Look how red that is. You're being a bad girl. No, no, no. Bad girl. Bad girl. Now I probably have it all over my face. But anyway, so, you know, still not the same as the cad red. Or the permanent orange, I'm sorry. So what I want to do now is, kind of play with some stuff to see if I can get a shadow side red that I like. Again, crimson, alizarin crimson is translucent. So let's mix it with red cadmium light, and I get a pretty red. Okay. Now, remember I said with translucents, you can see through them, so you may need to go a little bit darker. You may need some more of the alizarin. Okay, and I'm gonna be brave. I'm gonna take a little bit of the French Ultramarine, which is also translucent. Throw that in there. And I'm not so much on the blue-purple side, but still on the red. And then you can see the difference in that so far. So this pretty much will start looking like the shadow side. If I take a little bit of, and I'm taking really, really small amounts because I'm mixing very small amounts of paint. If I throw that on there, I'm going to drag it down into here. because I want to pick up just a little bit more of that red. Don't be afraid, drag your paints out. Yeah, how people mix paints, they're like very personal. So it's darker than that. You probably can't see that way. It's darker than that. In between. So I get something I like, so what do I have to do? I have to mix a bigger pile, right? To get that color. Ooh, purple. Oh no, I messed up. It's purple. Let's all panic. So the complement of purple is yellow. I'm adding yellow so that I can turn down the blue that's in there to get it back to that brown color. Which is right there. Maybe I don't want it that brown. All right. Maybe I don't want it that translucent. Maybe I want to see what happens if I put cadmium red light in there. So see, I don't have the pressure of, I have to mix this color to put it on my palette. When I'm just standing here mixing colors, I'm asking, what if I do this? What if I do that? And, you know, where could I use this color? Well, the commission I'm going to be working on has a red roof. And just as I can use every one of these greens in that painting, along with some more additional greens that I'll be mixing up, I can use these reds. But I'm not thinking at this point, I have to make the shadow side to match this red roof that I'm looking at. Okay, so I just continue to mix this up. Still not the orange that I want. Again, this is opaque, so I don't want to slam it with a lot of it. I just want to kind of orange this up a little bit, red it up a little bit more. Okay, so, you know, I could even, this is the other thing that I see a lot of my students doing. They get to this color, and instead of just setting aside some of that color and just taking half of the pile that they're mixing instead of, you know, and they end up with this pile like this, just, you know, set it aside. You know you want to do something continually with it, and take a little bit back out and slam that little bit instead of slamming all of it. Then you end up with something a little different than that. Naturally, it's lighter. Maybe I want it a little darker. I'll add some of that back in. I want to keep that color though, because it's a nice color. I'm going to add some more of the alizarin in. See how the alizarin almost looked purple when I put that in there? Kind of interesting, isn't it? I want it to be a little warmer. So I'm going to go back to the cad light. I'll put a little yellow in there. I'll put a little more yellow in there. I want to get between this one, actually this one and this one is where I'm trying to head to. Which is just about it. Now, we know that blue is a complement to orange. So if I hit it with ultramarine blue again, I'm sorry, green is a complement. Well, no, blue is complement orange, sorry. And then, you know, so if I hit it with blue, straight blue, you know, I may end up, you know, I just want to dull this down just a little bit. These are all too, the chroma on these are all too high for me for a shadow. So instead of using just this blue, I love Michael's colors. So I'm going to squirt out a little bit of lapis here. I'm going to squirt it out by the ultramarine blue. So this lapis lazuli from Afghanistan is number 702, series number 7. And I pull that out when I want a alternate color of blue to mix in As you can tell, this is translucent, this is more opaque. Lapis is basically the pigment that was used by the old Impressionists, old masters. I'm just going to take a very small amount of that and I'm going to dump it in here. Okay, so it really didn't affect it too much. So another little bit. And the chroma is starting to die down. Starting to gray it down because I'm using its complement. It's starting to not be as transparent because I'm using an opaque paint into a transparent paint. Starting to become a little more opaque, turning the chroma down. And I've got a third or fourth color that I can use in the shadow side of red. And it is very much, you know, towards the orange side. Like if I took this permanent orange and set it right there, look at the difference in the two versus just in temperature. Okay? So I got all these wonderful colors here in this red area here. I want to clean that up a little bit. I'm going to use a little white. Just to see what kind of color, what kind of another color that I could use in the painting. So it's kind of like doing Edgar Payne's mud theory, if you want to call it that. Look how purple that is. Isn't that amazing? I just love mixing colors like this. Look at that. Look how that looks next to that. It's on the purple side, isn't it? It's really kind of interesting, isn't it? It's kind of cool. Oh, and mixing paints always makes you feel like you're... Just out of curiosity. Anyway. So now, you know, on the lighter side, we can use this guy on the light side of the roof. This guy's just basically, it's all orange, isn't he? And you can use that straight out of the tube if you want, as long as it matches your value that you're looking for. You know, adding white to this permanent orange, you know, you get this kind of color. To me, that's like way too pinkish. Or I mean, it's like, I'm not so sure about that color, so I'm going to put him right over there. And then you can see the difference there. If you can get that on camera, I think it's on camera. Let me go back and look and see what this looks like. Hi, Debbie. Hi, Rod. So, I'll wave back at you guys. What I'll do when I'm done is I'll bring the camera down, guys, so that you can get a closer look to it. I know it's, hi Shelly, hi Karen, hi Dan, hi Jack. So, it's nice you guys are tuning in. Thank you so much. So yeah, I can see what you're seeing. It's like kind of far away. Let's, I don't want to be holding my camera when I have paint all over my hands. It makes it a little hard. So, anyway. When you do the exercise, don't hold yourself to, oh my God, I'm going to freak out because I can't make this blue. Use this exercise. Oh, there, Tom came up. Say hi, everybody, Tom. We're live on Facebook.
Oh, hello.
So, okay, so Tom said he's going to hold the camera so that you guys can see the colors better. Hopefully you all are still there
You want me to
watching this.
bring it?
No, just take it out. Here, hang on. This is live TV, guys, so... Okay, yeah, that'll go down. There we go. So, these are what just to recap real quickly. These oranges here, or reds, I'm planning on using as the shadow side of a roof on top of the old church building of the painting. So, if I bring this guy in, you know, that's just really shouts red. I played around with You can just talk. It's live TV. They know that.
You're getting your shadows. You want me to come around the other side?
Oh, you mean like this? Nah, they can. That's fine.
Okay.
They'll let you know if they want you to do something. If they're still there. They may have said, okay, that's it. I'm done.
Hi, Rod. Hi, Jack.
Are you still there, Jack? I don't know if he's there or not. But anyway, Jack is one of the students one of my new students. So, and he's also a patron over on Patreon. So he's going to get a lot more stuff like this. So this is, like I said, this is like real red, which may be okay. But I want to kind of tone this down a little bit. So if I use the alizarin and tone that down, I get kind of the red that my mind says is closer to that red roof in the sun. Not quite as warm. So I just toned it down in temperature, really. Okay? You set that aside. So like I said, you need to just start playing. Now there's this really cool color that Michael Harding has. This is the quinacridone. I'm just getting up some of this leftover paint so that when I start messing around with this one. So again, this is the quinacridone gold, number 411, series 4. I'm going to start with that because it's really kind of an interesting color. See how dark that is? It's very translucent. Okay, so again, you can use this as a glaze if you wanted to. We can play around with adding opaque colors to it so that it makes it more, not quite as translucent and not quite as opaque either. So again, you just play, you continue to play. So if I added yellow to this guy, I end up with a really nice gold, right? Looks good. Beautiful, beautiful yellow. So I'm going to make a little bit more of that, actually. Yeah, you can. Tom just got done walking up the hill. He walked without me today. I'm going to walk tomorrow. So I made a little bit more of that because I want to use this yellow versus this yellow of the cadmium. Okay? Mainly because that's going to keep that warmth just down just a tiny bit. So I'm going to go back to the cadmium red light. Put that down on my palette. I'm going to use some of this yellow. I'm going to play up until I can get to a really warm orange. And again, just keep pulling this down. Make sure that you can get all the pigment together and mixed. You may say something.
Hi, Deb. If you're still there.
Yeah, Deb couldn't see what she needed the camera closer, so she may have left. I don't know.
Just wanted to tell you if you're still there, I'm going to my first beer meeting tomorrow.
He's so happy. So compared to the cadmium red, see how orange that is? But it's not slap you in the face warm orange. Okay? Flatter. Okay, like that.
Okay.
Okay. So, the mixture of these two is really good for the barn. Sometimes we just like to take paint right out of the tube. But I always find that mixing is so much better. So let's take a little more of this quinacridone gold. And I'm sorry, Michael, if I'm pronouncing it wrong. And I'm going to add some of this orange to it. Permanent orange. So the translucent properties of that gold is still there. See how I can see the palette below it? Okay. Looks like Deb's back. Could she just say hi? Oh, okay. So see, it's still very translucent. And it is very close, just a tad darker than that orange that I mixed with the quinacridone gold and yellow. Notice I'm achieving different values. I don't know if you can catch this, Tom. But look at the different values on the shadow side. Yeah, and we're just taking color out. We're just looking at black and white, gray. And then the difference between those two in value. And I haven't even used white. Okay? White grays your stuff, it takes it up in value, number one, but it also dulls your color. So it's almost as bad, if you will, as using, that was it, Deb asked me to bring it to the camera earlier. Okay. Okay?
Dan is watching.
Yeah. Well, they may be getting pretty bored. I've been on here for a while. But anyway, white is, you know, if I put white in here, it destroys the temperature. It brings it up in value. And then there are some cases where you saw this, where white helps to bring a really lighter color for you to use as a highlight, but isn't as chalky. So, and that's the other thing that you get when you put a lot of white in it. So just to talk about that or show you guys what I mean, here's a little bit of the titanium white. I'm going to put it in here. So we went from a very translucent color that would look great with a glaze on it to something that was, and I didn't even slam this. Of course, like I said, with Michael's paints, it's hard to slam, especially if you've been using them for a while. Yeah, it's not a bad color. It would work. I went from very translucent to very opaque, all in the same value range. So as you mix and play, that was good. I got paint all over my viewfinder. But as you mix and play, you start to learn that you really don't need to use as much white as you think you need to use. And then, of course, one of my other friends, Joe McGurl, he'll use white. Huh? No. Tom just asked if he wants me to put me on camera. I'm like, no. So, Joe McGurl and I had a really wonderful art talk one time, and I asked him, you know, you're not afraid to use white, because we've always been told, don't use white. Don't use white out of the tube, you know. And Joe does that, and I said, and limited, and as soon as I asked the question, he came back with, I use white in limited use, you know, just a real quick little highlight somewhere. So don't overuse white. That's kind of another lesson for the day. So all of these guys could be used in a painting. This is the gold quinacridone that I'm getting ready to use. Again, you can just spot them up over there. I want to save some of these so I know that I can mix these colors again. So again, we put them on the board to save them. I also have the paint chips over here too that'll help guide me back into that. I want to show you one more quick, easy, fun little trick. I don't think I got that guy. Before I totally destroy this board. And again, when they're on the white board, you can really see the difference in the colors. And again, always remember to wipe your palette knife off. I'm bad at that. I want to get that clean color on there. And then we get this pretty green. Actually, I should put that down by the green so you can see all the difference in the greens. Okay, so they've been saved. Now I have all these colors here, and I've got some greens. I'm going to move some of this color down just so I have them here. This is a trick that I don't know, I'll credit Edward Payne, or anyway, Thomas Payne was the other guy. Anyway, I'm going to credit Payne on this one. Put all these colors down here. Actually need a little bit more of these. When you're done painting for the day, maybe you've come to the end of the painting and you've got a lot of paint left. My suggestion is not to just roll up your palette, but to make what Payne always called was mud.
There's a message for you.
Thank you, Dave. Hal. Thank you, Hal. I always say that wrong. So anyway, now I hear all you going, you just ruined all those colors. But this is what actually this color if you put some of this color in your painting, it really ties your painting together. So while Paint called this mud, which is basically what it is, but I call it a really gorgeous color, okay? And since I really didn't put all of my green in here, I could actually spice it up with a little bit more green to bring it down. But a touch of this here and there will tie your painting together. Your eye will just naturally flow from one color to another with these colors, with these mud colors in there. Let's see some of the Caribbean blue as well, and some of the Viridian. Stark. Yep, stark. That's the other thing. Tom said it's dark. And if you have any open-end paint tubes, you can, you see now I'm all the way to a brown. It's a really pretty brown, but it's very dark. So if I come back and throw in a little more red, let's do all the cadmium. Let's do some orange. I'm not going to waste my lapis. So, yeah, now I'm in a totally different color. And everybody else may freak out and say, I'd never use that color, but you would be amazed by just placing this in different parts of your painting, how much more your painting is pulled together. Okay, so I'm going to set that over there because I will end up using that. And you can even start from that color to make different colors from it. So instead, again, just using a basic palette, if I want it, this is a brown color, if I want to go more towards a purple, for example, I come in, I add my ultramarine blue, I add my alizarin crimson, I start to mix that up, and all of a sudden, wow, get a little bit more because these were translucences. I got a lot more opaque paint in there. Let's get the rest of this. You know, now all of a sudden I'm back into the purple side. See how close that is? And more purple.
Looks just a touch darker on the screen.
Yeah.
As in real life.
Yeah. Okay, so there's that. And that's another color. You know, maybe, you know, a lot of folks are like, oh, I can't wait. But this will blow your mind if you've never done this. A lot of us who have been painted for a while have always done this. Everybody wants to use black, right? Oh, I gotta use black. I can't wait till they let me use black. Okay, I'm gonna use the red square. So if I look through the red square,
The two of them.
three of them. The black. So this is the black color. I'm getting this all over my hands. The black color. This is that brown that I mixed up from everything that was there. And then this is the last purple color that I mixed up. So if I go this way, can you see it? Okay, so that black out of the tube is basically the same value as that purple purple was that I have there. But if you really look at the color, I'd much rather have this purple color than this black color in my painting. Because it's color. What I'm more interested in is value. I want the value to be dark, but I want it to have color. Sorry, I was cleaning off my red square so I don't get color all. This is why you should not have done nails in mixed colors. So hopefully that'll come off, but it will come off actually. So, you know, this color is a lot prettier, I think, than this black color. So if I take this color and I take black and I mix it together, you know, nothing really happens. You know, it's just, okay. It's just a really, so I'm going to put a little more black in here because I'm going to blow your mind now. One reason why everybody likes to have black on their palette which I showed you all the different variety of greens that we could get to without really even going into the really warm side of greens, temperature-wise. But here's this nice black color. It's got a little bit of that purple mud, if you want to call it mud, in there. So I'm going to take cadmium yellow now. How did that happen? We got green. Okay? And it is a different green than we have over here. And I guarantee you, if you did what I did with this board, stand outside and mix colors, you'll see so many other colors of greens in there. So if I stand outside and mix colors, I'm not typically painting. I'm typically trying to expand my palette and my eye to see other colors. So there's that green color. Totally different than any of the other greens. And we went from quote-unquote mud to a color that we can use. Dark in value. So here's that purple. Here's that dark green. Look at that next to each other. So, okay. All right. So coming to the end basically here. So I've got all of these. What'd Shelly say? Good to see. Okay, thank you. Glad you guys could see that. Tom's a good helper. He's my cameraman. I'm going to hire him for the job. So I'm going to take a little bit of white, and what I want to do is just kind of smear that around again. And you see how I didn't let the other colors behind that influence what I was mixing up, because I was totally thinking about what I was mixing up, not the color that was behind it. And again, if Carolyn Anderson tunes in, she'll be like, "Oh my God, Linda, clean your palette." So it's what you're used to. As you work more and more with color, and as you work more and more, you'll get away from white being the color that you're mixing on. Like I said, some people like mixing on a gray. Look at these beautiful grays that are coming out of these. Yeah. Again, this is another gray color, lighter in value, that you can use to pull your colors, your painting together. I put it towards there, it looks purple. Put it towards purple or green, it looks gray, brown. Put it towards the black, it looks warm. All kind of stuff. So I highly recommend, if you've been away from painting like I have for at least 2 months, maybe more, before you just jump into painting, take some time, mix up some colors, have some fun, and don't worry so much about, I have to mix this color to make it exactly right. Worry more about having color relationships that play off of one another. So all of these colors that I've mixed up here all play off of one another because I started with a primary palette, expanded it with a couple other colors that are on my favorites, and I kind of have them on my palette board now because I know what I can do with them, all because I stood around and just mixed colors, not because I was painting with the pressure of doing a painting and making sure, and especially on a commission. You know, I have to make it exactly right, or it has to be perfect. No painting is precious. Get that in your mind. If you messed up, you can fix it. So again, what I'm going to do is I'm going to put the lid on this thing, and I'm going to save it. And I probably will use some of it in the upcoming commission I'm doing, and I'll just put that up, and you can watch me paint from that. Probably won't be talking as much as I am doing this. So this is one lesson. This is you'll see lessons like this over on my Patreon page. So you can Google me, Linda Fisler, and then or go out to Patreon and do a search for Linda Riesenberg Fisler and become a patron, and you'll see more of this type of lesson. Thanks for tuning in, guys. It was fun hanging with you. Hope you had a great time.
Bye, y'all.